Hello, Flavia, and hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode, Flavia. I'm so happy you could be here and we could finally do this.
I know we've been trying to schedule it in for quite a while, but I'm super grateful to, be here and share this space with you and explore whatever comes up in this episode.
Absolutely. Flavia, I think you were literally the first guest I had in mind for this podcast, and you will be the first guest officially. So I'm so happy that this is happening. And I mean, yeah, where to begin? So first, I'm curious, just to open things up, kind of set the scene a little bit. Flavia appears to be in her office, in her home, and she's got all her certificates behind her. She's got a nice plant. She's got a huge wall of books because Flavia is one of the most well-read people, especially when it comes to health. Like any health book you can think of, she's probably got it. And I wanted to know, just to break the ice a little bit, not that we need to, but what are you drinking right now as we record?
Coffee. I know I shouldn't be saying that because there's so many controversies around coffee, but it is my go-to drink. So I'm having coffee and I have a huge bottle of water here that I'm actually going to place in front of me so that I don't forget to drink.
I love that. Yeah. I have my concoction over here with a bunch of adaptogens and whatever. Also, what I have in that drink is the almond milk recipe from Ora Collective that LA developed. Flavia's the founder of Ora Collective, which you will have heard in the intro. Love that recipe, use it all the time. I've got water too. So I think we're hydrated. We're ready to go.
Set.
Yes.
We're hydrated. We are ready.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I want to go back to the beginning of your journey with really paying attention to your own health. So I'd love if you could tell us, was there a specific catalyst? What was going on in your life? And especially what led you to look at health in a more holistic way?
Absolutely. I would say I was always very much interested in alternative medicine and alternative ways of looking at health. It started pretty early because I was diagnosed with depression pretty early in my teen years. And the doctor at the time just prescribed antidepressants, which were extremely strong. And I felt I got hooked pretty fast. And I realized then somehow there was an inner voice in me that was saying something is wrong. Like you cannot rely on these medication to help you through this. And back in the day, I was lucky enough to get into contact with someone, a family relative or a family friend who told me, look, there's this amazing naturopathic doctor who works with traditional Chinese medicine and she's just really incredible. You should go meet her. And I remember saving up because I couldn't really speak about these topics in my family. It was always like, the doctor is right, you do that. I saved up and I went to see this woman, which is really someone that I owe my health to. She's based in Florence. She's a German woman. And basically in one session, she figured out the root cause of my depression, which was a thyroid imbalance, which wasn't diagnosed because back in the day, of course, they don't run lab work or they don't just go deeper into the issue. They just think, okay, this kid is depressed, let's just put them on antidepressants. She figured that out. She put me on a cure of supplements and batch flowers, and she gave me also a boost of confidence, telling me, hey, your body is super resilient and intelligent, you can do this. Go out, buy yourself a nice red lipstick, wear it, and go out in the streets and just be, the kid you want to be today. And that literally changed my view on health and on the power of, first of all, like believing in your provider, in the person who is supporting you, but also just dedicating time. And first, it was the first time in my life that I actually started dedicating time to tending to my own little garden and observing it with curiosity and compassion. So that's how it started. And somehow, you know, life led me to completely different studies, even though I had always this little inner voice telling me, Flavia, you have to do something with this. You have to go deeper. You have to understand this whole world of health so that you can help others. And I've always known deep down that this was my purpose. My purpose is deeply linked with helping others understand and heal their relationship with health. You know, I went and got into like a very conventional sort of educational system. My parents pushed me to get a job that was, in their eyes, rewarding. And of course, as a 17-year-old, you get out of school and you have no idea what you should do with your life. You listen to your parents. And I'm really grateful for them to have pushed me into, you know, this more conventional type of life in which I became, you know, I had a really good position as a sales director in different companies in the luxury industry. I traveled from Milan to Paris to Frankfurt, ultimately Berlin, but there was always this voice telling me, what are you doing here? Like, why are you selling stuff to people that they don't even need? I wanted to sell stuff that people actually needed. And so I started thinking about it, and I had many conversations. And of course, life and its synchronicities brings you on the paths of many different people that start planting little seeds. It took me a while, but I heard for the first time about this school in New York, which has a very holistic approach to health and nutrition. Many conversations, and ultimately what really triggered the change was my father's illness. He got really, really sick really fast, and just the pain and the powerlessness that I felt in those few months that I had with him made me switch. I was like, it's not possible that any doctor cannot recommend a healthy diet or lifestyle changes that can help him through this period. And he died 5 years ago. And the day he died was the beginning of the program at IIN, the School of Integrative Nutrition that I first attended when I started this whole journey. So somehow my journey is really connected to his passing, and he's always been sort of like guiding me through all the choices that I've made so far. And I realized, you know, because to come back to your question around why I view health holistically, I realized that diet and exercise and supplements are not the response to all of our problems. We actually have to view health in a more holistic, in a more complete way by addressing things as our relationships to others, our financial situation, our spirituality, the way we feel when we enter our home. So there's many different aspects you have to really view and inspect to feel wholly healthy.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. I really feel like even as someone who calls you a friend, I know you a lot better. I didn't actually know that you experienced depression in your teenage years, which is so tough, which is so, so tough. I mean, I think any period of depression is hard on a person, on a soul, but especially being so young, and especially, even if people aren't telling you directly, like that's supposed to be one of the quote unquote happiest times of your life, right? Because, you're still young, you don't have responsibility, whatever. But then to have this like heaviness or sadness inside you, and, to be led on a path that, with the medication that wasn't correct for you, at that moment in time, and then to be exposed to something totally different that opened up your world. I'm so happy for you that you were able to find that at a relatively young age, because I think a lot of people, get caught up on one path that they think is the only way. And that whatever it is, right? We're not just talking about Western health versus a system that's maybe more holistic. Just, let's talk very generally. Like, it's very easy, I think, for people to get stuck in one way of doing things and think that's the only way, and not really be able to see alternatives or another way out. So I'm really happy that you kind of like figure that out at a young age, even though, maybe your life took different turns and you went in a way that, maybe wasn't fully aligned, but then that's how you get back to alignment. So, wow, thank you for sharing all that with me. And I think also, losing a parent, which I can relate to, just generally, no matter how it happens, I think really puts your life into perspective, because you never know when, things are coming to a close for someone. And yeah, it sometimes, unfortunately, it takes events like that to really like, honestly, smack us across the face and be like, what are you doing? This is right for you. And obviously, yeah, there's lots of different factors, but thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. So I guess like this, some of what you've said kind of feeds into another thing I wanted to ask you, which was, when did you really feel like you wanted to make the switch from learning about holistic health and integrating that to yourself, and really wanting to share that with people and really wanting to make that your career? If you have, any thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because actually I should say that when I started this whole path, I didn't have a career in mind in this sector. I thought I'll take a year off. I actually had just quit my job in Paris, and I'll take a year off. I'll tend to my own wounds. I'll take care of grief and sadness and do something with my time that makes sense. And all throughout this year, this transformative year, I never for 1 second thought that I would be helping people. And then somehow, and that's how crazy synchronicity is in life, people started reaching out to me and saying, hey, I heard you doing these studies. Maybe do you have a tip or something that I can put in place? And that's what I started doing. I started, helping a friend, helping a neighbor. Then the neighbor referred me back to someone else. And before I knew, I was seeing people in my Berlin apartment, and I had a practice. And the more I saw people, the more I received their feedback, the more I became confident that this was something that felt really rewarding to me, and that I could actually create a business out of it. So I just started per pure, how do you say in English? Case? No, you don't say that. Maybe.
What language are you thinking in right now?
Italian.
Okay.
No, I just started out of my apartment, and then it became clear that I wanted to create something bigger out of it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah.
Especially because none of what I teach or impart my clients is rocket science, Sometimes I think, well, the imposter syndrome, of course, always creeps up because you feel you might have as many diplomas and certificates as you want, but at the end of the day, you're always faced with people who are struggling and having really deep transformative journeys. And it really surprises me each time I say something really basic in my mind to a client, and that really turns on a switch for them. That really is a catalyst for them to transform and change. So I always am brought back to this, understanding that being healthy and being more attentive and more aware towards your health isn't complicated. They make it look complicated, but it really just takes commitment on your side to put your focus on this for a while.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think this is something I don't know, it comes up in conversation with people a lot, or especially when I was with my family this summer, because I realized that honestly, whatever is going on in my life, my health is my number one priority. And that's not the case for everyone. And that's okay, because everyone has to, decide what's right for them and what's important to them. But for me, it's completely fundamental, because if you don't have your health, you have almost nothing, because, how do you experience life to the fullest if you don't have that, right? So I totally agree with you that it's not complicated. It is just a question of, okay, I'm going to maybe have to get up half an hour earlier to make a good breakfast for myself, or to pack my lunch for work, or whatever it might be that gets the person on the way that would be better for them. But I think a lot of people take their bodies for granted and their health for granted. And I certainly used to, so I can understand that perspective, because it's like, no, like me as a human, I'm obligated to work or to take care of my family first, or whatever it is. But, yeah, it's such a fundamental thing that's become so convoluted when it doesn't need to be. And I think that's almost another podcast conversation,
But let me ask you a question, because this is I think what is at the core of this of this problem. When did you start viewing your health? When did you start putting emphasis or emphasizing your health, or putting your attention towards your health?
I think it wasn't until I fully realized that I needed to do more than just take medication for, when I had some depression stuff. Yeah.
So what I mostly experience is that people get into touch with their health only when they hit rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
or when they start panicking. And there's a lot of different experiences and ways from which you might start looking at your health. But I find that most of the time we are faced with something, and then we start acting on it. So my message to people is really, don't wait till it's too late. You taking care of your health doesn't require much attention. It actually just requires building new habits around your schedule. And I'm not saying that you have to become 100% committed to it and being super attentive to what you eat, what you drink, how much you sleep. It's just creating the awareness first and then trying your best. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at all, but I just try to bring back this awareness every time I feel out of touch or disconnected with my health.
Yeah, completely. Completely. And I think in some ways it takes less effort than people think. Like, people might build it up in their head like, oh my God, I have to get up at 6 a.m. and do all these crazy things. It's like, doesn't have to be that complicated. Like, even with what I do, I just tell people, like, you know, one thing at a time. Like, try one thing that I suggest or that would make sense for you, and see how that kind of builds into your life, and go from there. And I think it's also, unfortunately, people feel like, or I think many people experience, honestly, like, relatively quite a low baseline of like health and mental health, and think that that's normal when it could be so much better. So it's like, even if you're okay, like, it can maybe get better, right? And that is something that we should, you know, not put pressure on ourselves about, but like, you know, aspire to and get excited by. And I'm sure that's something you've experienced on your own health journey, kind of just like getting, like, peeling back more and more layers and being like, oh, wow, like, I feel even better now that I've addressed this. And now that I understand this, like, you know, great. Yeah. I don't know if that resonates. Yeah,
absolutely. It's like a practice, basically. And I like your comparison, you know, to peeling the layers, because it's one layer at a time. And I don't think that I will ever reach my optimal health, you know, because I'm just exploring, and I'm trying to find and fine tune ways to feel better every day. And I try a thousand things. I'm just curious. So last year was my glucose monitoring phase, and I started monitoring my glucose to understand, you know, to better understand what's happening in my body. And with that awareness, I created new habits. I'm trying to eat less gluten and dairy, and that's really changed the way I feel within my body and the way I feel energized. I've quit alcohol 2.5 years ago, and that also shifted my health in a massive way. But these are all like tiny little steps. You could argue that these are big steps if you're a gluten aficionado or an alcohol aficionado, but it's just trying things out and seeing how they sit for you. I just had a conversation with a client yesterday who has different symptoms showing up in their body. And I told them, look, if you get anything out of this call, just try to reduce anything that is inflammatory for your body for a month. And just give yourself this month. You know, it's like, I'm not telling you for a year, I'm telling you a month. Try to reduce sugar, lactose, dairy products, and gluten for 1 month. Observe what happens. And I'm sure this person will come back to me and tell me they feel amazing after 1 month and that their symptoms have gone. So it's just about trying things out, and sometimes also having a guide to help you and navigate this new paradigm.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, having so much information and health information be made available to us. Like, on the one hand, it's great for the average person to be able to, like, you know, access studies, like scientific studies, and look at that, you know, if they know how to interpret it. Then it's another thing where you can read, like, you know, you're looking at like avocados and whether or not they're healthy for you. Like, you know, 5 experts will say it is healthy, 5 will say it's not healthy. So it's a bit of a whirlwind and confusing thing. So that's why I think it is really important to work with, you know, a health professional such as yourself, and also to understand like their background and like where they're coming from, because I think maybe people don't always look into that, especially if you're just like looking at a TikTok video or whatever. It's like, well, what qualifications does this person actually have? And to also just understand that yes, there are scientific studies, but also like there's so much biodiversity within humans, within women, within men, within, you know, whatever, within the human race, that I think like health is a very subjective thing. And I think that's, you know, that's something that you say with like Ora Collective, your platform. So I wonder if maybe you could just like speak a little bit to that in terms of like how the average person can grapple with this like diversity of health information, and maybe what you would suggest or some of the things you see in clients, let's say.
Yeah, it's wild out there. It's really wild, and I know that navigating the world of health and wellness online, especially on TikTok. Oh my God, the other day I just tapped quick fixes, healthy quick fixes, and I was just looking at the thousands of videos showing up with people telling me, let me tell you how to do this, let me tell you how to do that, and everybody's just shouting their own opinion out in the world without actual scientific or proven records. It's scary. It really scares me as a practitioner to see that. And I feel for the people who have to navigate this. You introduced the concept of biodiversity, which in my studies we called bioindividuality, which basically means that what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. And whenever someone tells me, oh, have you seen this new thing? No. I'm like, look, try it. See if it works for you. Oh, do you do intermittent fasting? And I'm like, I personally do because I don't eat in the mornings. I'm just not hungry in the mornings. And that works just fine for me. But what happens to you if you don't eat in the morning? Do you get an energy slump in the afternoon? Or like, everything has to be taken, tried out for yourself, and then you can make an informed decision based on how your own unique bio-individual body is responding. And the problem with that is that very often we could get tired of trying things out because we tried one thing and it doesn't work out. So the way I help my clients is just by looking at the larger picture. We do very thorough intake forms in which we look at their symptoms and their health history. I create a very thorough map of where they were when they were born up until now, and we just really look at individual episodes in their lives to try and see what might have happened to their physiology that they are responding in a certain way. And the way I see my role is more as a guide that already can, prevent you from trying 300,000 things. I'll probably just suggest the things that make more sense because of your story, because of how you've lived so far. So two things really. It's if you're really interested into viewing your health and putting an extra effort onto enhancing your health, start trying things out and see how your body resonates. This requires for you to really tune into your body and listen to it, which is something that sometimes we rarely do. I'm personally also quite often out of touch with my body because my mind is running so fast and I am doing so many things, but I always come back to it. Maybe not as often as I would love to, but I do. And the second thing is find someone like me or find someone that you trust to accompany you on this journey. And that's why also I always offer the first consultation, because doing this work requires for you to have a companion that you trust and that can keep you accountable and that you can share your most intimate things with. And I believe if you decide to, get a partner on this journey, then see more people, interview more people, ask them how are you going to be my partner, how are you going to help me with this and that, and then make your decision and feel comfortable that that person can really help you.
And I like how just now you referred to it as more of like a partnership versus like a practitioner, patient, or client dynamic. Because I think some of the issues I personally have with Western medicine, or, your traditional doctor's office, whatever you go to, whatever kind of specialist, is, the doctor has all the authority and you feel like you don't know anything, but you're the one that's had your body this whole time and you've been in your body this whole time. And so that can be really tricky to navigate, especially when you have no awareness of the fact that that's going on. I mean, this is my opinion and my experience with not every doctor, but just, I think it's a common thing for enough people, I remember like when I was younger, my mom was like, when you go to the doctor, when you go to whoever, you have to advocate for yourself. And I think that's so important basically in every area of life, but especially when you go to the doctor, because it's easy for, especially if it's like a short appointment or whatever, the doctor only has like 10 minutes to just see you, and they check whatever it is, and they say like, oh, I don't think it's anything, but you're like, no, like I feel this, or no, this has been a problem for me for X amount of time. It's really important that we advocate for ourselves and we insist. And so I love, speaking about this in a more like partnership dynamic of like, I'm in this with you as your practitioner. You know what I mean? Like, I understand. I'm not going to just dismiss what you're telling me. Like, we are going to get to the root of it, right? That's why I love holistic approaches to things in general, but especially to health, because it's like, we're not just taking a pill to mask the symptoms. We're not just, putting a Band-Aid and forgetting about it. We're getting to the root of it. And I think with that, a lot of other stuff comes up, and maybe you've had that with clients, right? Like in my own experience of health and wellness and mental health, especially, it's like, you go to one thing and then you go deeper and then you see all these other things that are connected to it, whether it's like physical symptoms, emotional things you need to deal with, like things like that. I wonder if you could like speak to that a little bit. If that makes sense.
I might have to ask you to repeat the last question, but I also want to tie into what you just said. I am your partner, yes, always. And the way that I am your partner is that I'm going to give you the tools to understand what is written on your lab work, to understand what is the specific root cause of your symptom, so that you have the words and the knowledge to go and actually go to your GP or your practitioner, your main practitioner, and tell them, hey, I understand what the thyroid does, and I want this and this test to be done because I'm afraid that I might be hypothyroid. So, as you said, it's a very disempowering experience when you go to the doctor and they're looking at your... I just had this conversation with my doctor. He knows my job. He knows that I deal with functional medicine, lab work and stuff. And he's looking at my lab work and he's saying, look, everything is fine. Everything is in the reference range. There's no like highlighted things. There's no highlighted things. That's my favorite one. Like, as long as if it's not highlighted, it's not a problem. Whereas you might be really close to becoming highlighted, or you might be, reference ranges is a big topic for me, because anyways, the reference ranges that we look at in traditional medicine are really, really broad, and they include old, young, obese, anorexic, women, men. So there's like, it's a big melting pot of reference ranges. And when I look at a client specifically, I look at their gender, at their ethnicity, at their physical composition, and then I look at their lab work. So of course, it's very disempowering, because they're not even telling you what they looked at on a lab work. Like, I'm looking at this report that I got. It's right here in front of my eyes. And if I had no idea what I was looking at, I wouldn't know that, he looked at my kidneys, at my liver, and my thyroid, and my overall immunity, and minerals and vitamins, etc. Of course, now with the understanding I have, I look at my lab work and I realize, okay, there's one interconnected marker with another one that show me that I'm lacking magnesium in this time, in this moment, or that I might have some problems with my gallbladder or whatever. But this is never the case when you have 10 minutes in the doctor's office. It takes me an hour and a half to actually review my client's lab work. So it's really something that requires more than 2 minutes skimming through highlighted or not highlighted data. And I really take pride in this, because it requires a lot of time and commitment on my side, but I make sure that when I finish my hour with the client is informed and knows exactly what is going on in their own bio-individual body. And if they still don't understand, then I'll take extra time to go over it again until they confidently can go to their GP and address these questions and these fears and these extra lab work that they might want to require. So I don't know if it really responded to your question, but I
no,
just
it
wanted
did.
to say, yeah, this is it. Like, you should, I mean, it's a little bit different with legal stuff. I would argue that there's no legal coaches or people that actually walk you through how to understand like 30 pages of legal contracts. But in health, it's so simple to understand, the different body parts that make your body work as a whole. And I mean, some clients don't like that, because I try to make it so simple that it could be like a story for a little child, They need more factual, more scientific stuff from me. And then I try to give them the more geeky version of the story. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's really about simplifying, and conveying the main message to the client, and explaining to them what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for breaking all that down. I appreciate it. And I just want to ask you this to clarify, just to make it really clear, because you and I are people, you especially, that are familiar with lab work, right? But for someone who might do a blood test and then never look at it again, can you just explain what a reference range is? Do you know what I mean? Because I understand the terminology, but maybe not everyone gets it right away.
Absolutely. So the reference range is basically a number that is right next to your result, which shows a minimum and a maximum within which you have to be positioned. It's just a number or a set of numbers, usually a minimum and a maximum, that has been collected via data and that is used as a framework to look at a specific marker. So that's what a reference range is.
Cool. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Yeah, I wanted to kind of, I don't know, I guess ask you to kind of ground things a little bit and give people some practical tips in general. What would you say, like if someone's just starting to work with you, and let's just say we're starting from a place of like, I want to improve my health. We're speaking very generally. What are a few things that you would generally recommend to people?
That's a good question, because again, it comes into the topic of bioindividuality and what the specific person needs. I would say definitely creating awareness. So if you can track how you feel over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the longer the better. And keep a journal on how you feel after you eat, how you feel when you wake up. Are you rested? Are you grumpy and tired? How does your period, if you are a woman, how does that impact your overall well-being? Just try to make sure to really have a log of the big picture, because that basically puts you in the position of the detective, and that's what we want you to do ultimately, is to just reconnect with how you feel. And it can be really casual. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. You can log it on your phone, on a journal, whatever you prefer. And then I would look at two main things, which are how stress affects you, because nowadays 70 to 8, I would say like the average has actually gone up in the past 5 years, and it's really scary, but like 80% of stress actually is related to illness in the body. So now 80% of illness is related to stress. So it's extremely important to assess where you're at on your stress levels and ask yourself, where am I on a scale from 0 to 10 when it comes to stress? Identifying your stressors. Is it your work? Is it your relationships? Is it some family member, giving you problems? Is it your financial situation? Identifying it and then starting to probably create a vision around that macro stressor and how you can improve that. Stress is fundamental, and it's the largest culprit when it comes to health and wellness. And then I would address sleep. I sometimes speak with clients who tell me, oh, I sleep enough. I sleep 4 hours a night. And I'm like, no, that's not enough.
I can't do anything if I have 4 hours of sleep. You don't want to speak to me. You know, like, oh my gosh, wow.
It would be impossible for me to function or do anything. Like I at the risk of sounding like super boring, like you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, because you might think that sleep is useless, but it is during those hours of rest that your body regenerates and creates all of the functions that keep you alive during the day. And there's many ways to address sleep, of course, from being mindful of like screen time and your environment, and maybe taking some melatonin to, release, to stop cortisol, hormone, which is actually your stress hormone and actually keeps you awake all day. Many different ways to address sleep issues, but it is definitely something you have to create awareness around, because if you don't sleep, you basically don't function physiologically, but also you will find that you will make the worst decisions during the day because you are deprived of energy. And I know a lot of people, for example, who come to me and are overweight, they don't sleep. And that's the first thing I work on with them, is just creating a very healthy sleep hygiene protocol, so that they don't start craving certain foods because they don't have the energy. And, you know, it's just so interconnected. These are the two main things usually, but also one thing that I want to add is truly what I have discovered and what I have found in these past years is that almost all disease starts in the gut. And this is it's nothing new that I'm saying, but it's also not so well communicated. People tell me, I don't have anything with my gut. I'm like, well, you don't necessarily have to have something in your gut for like to have like the actual symptomatic in your gut for it not to be working. So, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of the research and the data because, of course, there's so much and we could talk about it for an entire episode as well.
Yeah.
But if I can give you one idea to ponder on, is that contrary to what most people believe, we have more neurons and neurotransmitters in our gut than we have in the rest of the body. Many people think that the most decisions are made in the brain, but it's actually not true. Most decisions are taken in the gut because our bacteria are basically the little aliens with the little joysticks driving us through our daily activities and deciding most of the stuff that we're doing. So if your gut is, if you've had recurrent use of painkillers or antibiotics, or you have been stressed consistently for a long time, your gut might be, suffering, and you might want to address that first before you address anything else. Again, really try to think about root cause resolution versus just symptom suppression. Very often, I hear people talk about allergies, and they've been on antihistamines for 5 years. So basically what the antihistamine does to you, it is that it suppresses the symptom. It just makes it go away, but you're not addressing why the symptom is actually occurring. So, try to shift this mindset around symptom suppression versus root cause resolution, and try to go deeper and understand why you are having hives or why you're having, symptoms that arise in your body.
Yeah. Those are all fantastic places to start. And it's interesting because those are all things that I've come back to recently. Like, I kind of took a step back and I was like, okay, while I don't think my life is that stressful, I can see where the stressors are in my life. And I'm now, vowing to be more proactive about them. When it comes to sleep, I realize, okay, I don't necessarily go to bed late, but then like my quality of sleep isn't always good. So it's like, that's something I'm trying to improve. And then with the gut stuff, I mean, you taught me so much about this, in the past couple of years, but I'm taking those probiotics you recommended me. They just arrived yesterday, so I started today, and I'm really excited. And we won't say the name because Flavia should be sponsored by them.
I should, totally. I mean, I should totally be sponsored by them, but I truly believe that it's the best probiotic out there. So,
Yeah.
and I've done my research.
Anyone if anyone has done their research when it comes to this kind of stuff, it is Flavia.
It
So
is me,
I trust
honestly.
the recommendations. Yeah. I would love to talk about Ora Collective because we haven't even gone there yet for this last little bit. I would love if you could tell us, what was the catalyst to start it? Maybe we can just start there and see how the conversation unfolds.
All right. So, it ties back in with what you said before around having too much information out there and the lack of quality of information. And basically 3 years ago, it was mid-pandemic, a friend, and I actually can't remember who it was, and I should thank them because they initiated all of this, but they were like, or maybe it was more friends, but they were like, can you please set up like a support group for people to come together and just speak about things that will take our minds off of this pandemic situation? And it just clicked. I was like, hell yeah, that's my mission. I'll do it, And so I woke up every day at 7 a.m. and I would host this meeting. We were around 30 people. And for the first while, I was on my own and I was just, giving prompts and ideas for discussion. And people were interested about the topics I had to offer. And then I started asking others to join and share their wisdom within the group. So it became sort of like a collaborative space to share health and wellness tips and specifically also like more related to the holistic spectrum. We were talking about relationships. We were talking about how to handle your husband during the pandemic and your kids and the work-life balance and all of that. And that basically started the whole project with Ora Collective because I realized the importance of bringing people together in moments of introspection and moments that are not necessarily easy. So I started a home retreat, which was basically a program that sort of like ended up being 3 months, throughout which we would meet on a weekly basis. And I structured the whole program around workbooks that enable people to explore different areas of their health and wellness. And then we come together and we discuss about it. And that's the actual strength of this program, is that you get to meet with others who are exactly where you're at because they are curious, they want to explore, they want to challenge themselves, they want to set goals, and they want to have like specific action steps and be kept accountable. So that's how it started. And then I had this dream about becoming like sort of like a masterclass kind of platform offering courses. And I set out to create my first course with Joanna, who is our in-house holistic coach, lifestyle coach. And we co-produced a course on stress management. And I had no idea what I was putting myself into. I became a producer of courses. And we soon realized that people were loving the content, and that we should, with our expertise and also our just our own individual experiences and lived life, we had a lot to tell and to share. So we've also become sort of curators of content for people to land on a page where they come into contact with different opinions. I'm not saying that it's always like it's a straight line. I want to expose people to different opinions so that they can also make up their own mind as to what works best for them. But basically, Ora Collective today, 3 years later, is an integrative platform that works on a membership basis, and you can access all the content, the classes, the practices, the healthy recipe, video tutorials, and workbooks, and home retreats via an app since April, which I'm really proud to share. And we keep growing. And I think one of our strengths is that we are growing with our community. So it is our community that drives the content. We are not driving the content. The community asks us and we provide. So that's what we aim at doing and what we want to continue doing. And I just want to add one really quick thing, which was also super important for me when I first created the platform, is that I want to make it accessible to as many people as possible. And I want to make it beautiful. I want it to be an experience that you feel valued, that you feel taken care of, no matter, you know, your background, your ethnicity, your financial status. I want you to really feel welcome and be able to have a beautiful experience. This was extremely important to me. And I know I've been told, you know, your platform is very, it's actually, doesn't feel accessible because it's so elegant. But I want to shift that. I want to shift the idea that everyone can have elegance, everyone can have beauty. And that's what I set out to do 3 years ago. It's at the core of the project.
Yeah, totally. I know from the beginning, I was always like, wow, this is, you know, everything is, so well designed. But always from the beginning, I noticed it's like, okay, the prices are accessible. There are payment plan options. What else I want to say? If people like can't afford a session, they can contact you and you'll give them access, you know? So I love that you're combining those things and not saying that they have to be separate, right? And not saying that like, something that's more accessible, like can't be so beautiful, and something that's like so chic and elegant, you know, has to be so much money. Like I really, that's one of the things I love about Ora in terms of like its principles. And yeah, obviously I love the app and the platform and everything. I think, it really just keeps getting better and better. And I love seeing how it's evolving. Do you want to tell people a little bit about the Nurture program you put together?
Yes, thank you for asking, actually, because we are running an offer until the end of September, which is it's an offer which we have created with our community in mind. It basically how do you say it?
Combines?
It combines, yes, thank you. It combines the home retreat, which starts on the 3rd of October for 12 weeks. So you start strong, you know, with support for 3 months. You meet with me every single week on a set date and time, and you meet with your core group, which is your support group, with which you'll be able to exchange and also keep in contact throughout the whole year. And we've added the yearly membership to it. So basically you have access to the home retreat, then we let go of your hand, and then you have 1 year access to all of the live classes, the Q&As with me, which are going to happen as of September every month, in which we will keep it pretty open at the beginning. We want to see also what the community needs the most, but the idea is to create an accountability network so that you can return on a monthly basis and tell people what you've achieved, how you've achieved it, and also inspire others to, you know, maybe through your actions, you can inspire others to do the same. So we have that. You have access to all the classes. Of course, I already said that. The practices, we have new content which is dripped every month. And to that, I want to say also, we don't necessarily bombard you with content because it goes against what we want to do. We want you to be able to integrate everything we send out your way in a way that feels gentle to your body and to your mind. So we're never gonna have thousands of videos up on the platform. We would rather have less, but of higher quality and of higher use for you. So the Nurture program basically includes the home retreat and a full year of membership. Plus, the members get a welcome pack, which I'm really excited. I'm working on in these days, and I'm contacting lots of suppliers, and we're gonna do something really beautiful.
Ooh.
What else is included? I'm a little bit like I didn't have it ready, but yeah.
Honestly,
this is basically it.
That's so much, like so much value people are going to get from it, like really, truly. And also like within the platform, you have, of course, my like monthly horoscopes, but also I have a class in there on human design. So that's also something to look forward to if you become a member or decide to join the Nurture program. Flavia, I would love to wrap up with asking you a few fun questions.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So let's just dive right into them. So I would love to know, what is your favorite TV show of the year or like recently?
Oh my God. Favorite TV show would be, and literally we've been binging for months and even taking breaks during our daytime work schedules just to have like an episode in between. And I don't know if anybody can relate, but we've loved Seinfeld, which we had never watched. So we've binged on that.
Classic, absolute classic. What is music that always puts you in a good mood?
I don't know if it would be good mood, but it really moves me is like French and Italian old music, you know, with all that pathos and struggle and just all that energy that moves me. It's really something that I always go back to when I need like to feel something through music.
I love it. Yeah. What's your favorite way to unwind?
It's probably walking in nature. And it's something that I do on a daily basis. I walk my dogs at least an hour and a half each day. And I make sure I leave my phone in the car and we go out in the woods, and I really try to be present in the moment, and I observe the trees and the sounds. And that's really something that I've learned for me to be very beneficial on a daily basis.
I feel so calm just hearing you describe that. I love it so much. I love nature walks too. What's your favorite health supplement if you had to choose one at the moment?
It's the probiotic we can't talk about.
Or we're saying we can't talk about. No, they truly need to sponsor you. But I'm sure if you DM Flavia, she'll share what it is, right? Like that's fine with you?
Sure. Please DM me. But also I think they should, maybe we should just say the name and make them aware of the fact that they should have a distribution center here in Europe, so we don't need to order it from the US.
Preach. It kind of took long. One thing I'll say is I didn't have to pay. The duties were included, which I like, because sometimes I'm paying insane duties here on things I get from outside of Europe. Anyway, such a tangent, but I totally agree with you, Flavia. I'm here. I'll support you on that. Okay. My final little fun question. What's the clothing item you'd take with you if you could only take like one clothing item with you somewhere if there was, something happened.
Like if I had to run out of my house?
Yes.
Honestly, I would probably not even care about my clothing. I would just go out in my pajamas and make sure my dogs and my husband are with me, and that's it.
Okay, that's a sweet answer.
I'm not so attached to clothing, really.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I remember once we had a fire drill at summer camp. And I don't know why I had completely missed the news that we were going to have a fire drill throughout the night. And I remember taking all of my clothes and throwing them out of the window to make sure to save all of them. So maybe I would probably do the same and throw everything out of the window and make sure to. But if I had to choose one, I don't know what I would choose.
Yeah. I wanted to ask that partially because like Flavia has a fabulous wardrobe, just so you guys know. Like she's low key about it, but she can be fashion, she can do the thing.
You think so?
Yes, I do think so.
I absolutely do not view myself as someone that has like innate fashion instinct or style.
I think you always look amazing, even if it's like a low key thing.
Thank you.
Just to say. But anyway, so Flavia, where can everyone find you if they're curious about working with you? Where can they find Ora Collective and more stuff about this nurture program?
Okay, so you can contact me directly via my Instagram handle or via email at hello@flaviadeuchler.com, which is, I hope Bianca will write it out for you somewhere because I know it's a tricky one to remember. Easier is oracollective.com. And when you enter the website, you will be directly prompted to the Nurture program. And you'll see that it's really good value for what you get. So if you're considering to take the first step towards just creating the awareness around your health, please join us because it's going to be a great year ahead of us. And same Instagram handle, Ora Collective.
Yeah.
Find us there. Become part of the community because we love hearing from you and hearing what interests you most. And we love creating content that is really related to what you most need.
Totally. And I'd say like even the content alone that's on your website, on your Instagram, the Instagram lives you do, they're so valuable, you guys. So just check those out. Then maybe check out the membership, which has a free trial anyway. So there's so many good things you can dig into through Ora Collective. Yeah. ORA Collective, just to be specific. But everything will be in the show notes. Don't worry, guys. Yeah.
TikTok the other day translated Ora Collective as Oracle Collective.
Oh, fancy. Oracle.
Yeah, and my name, which is Flavia Deuchler, by the way, if you haven't noticed until now, was transcribed as Prada Oyster.
I love that. See, so chic. Even the bad transcribing is like she's Prada. She's just Prada.
She's Prada, and she's an oyster. So there you go.
Oh my God, I love that so much. Flavia, thank you so much. This was so informative, but also so much fun. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably and deeply and honestly. I love you. I can't wait for everyone to hear this episode and to get into the Ora community if they aren't already. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Bianca. See you soon, everyone.